Joke's on you, I'm into that shit!
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Jamsys, your favorite local non-cleaver, and today we're just going to be continuing our journey into hopefully securing Emperor this time around again. And yeah, there's less than 2 weeks left, so it's getting pretty tight. Like, I think at the time of recording anyway, the cutoff is 3,280 points, and there's like 200 people in like a 10-point bracket, which is kind of surprising because this is something you see on like the last day. Like, I wouldn't expect it to happen right now, but like, you know, what can you do? I just gotta play to stay out of the safe range. And yeah, I'm still gonna be drafting as aggressively as possible because you already know I do not want to sit here for like 20 turns playing standard because I have things to do. Anyway, if you like my RTA content with like a bunch of failures and a bunch of sassy commentary, then like, subscribe, comment for the engagement, or don't if you don't want to. It's really up to you. Anyway, my first opponent here decides that they want me to have as much fun as humanely possible, so they pick Lua. And since Lua is a fast, speedy unit, I decided to contest it a little bit with my Conqueror Lilius, and I picked Stenny because Stenny's just like flexible and she holds book. But then my opponent picks more speedy units like DJB, although I guess most DJBs cap out at around like 275 speed, and Cowrex, which are normally built like 280 to like the 300 range, depending on the gear quality. But to respect my opponent's pick, I basically pick Flutica because Flutica is good into DJB, and I also pick Acid just so I can hammer down that RGB Cowrick. My opponent responds to this by picking Politis, which I thought was a little strange, and then also Bryceria, which I found was a little strange too. But I just decided to pick Ida because either my Conqueror Lilius pushes up Ida and we win from that, or my Acid hammers down this Cowrick and Flitica gets to push my team up and we win because of that. So I just banned Lua just to be safe. I'm not too sure what this Lua speed was, but I'm pretty sure it might have been in like the 300 to 305 range, which leaves it in the area to get speed RNG'd by Acid, so I didn't want to risk it. So we enter the match, and yeah, judging by the CR bar, this Cowrick's around 285 to 290, which is a very respectable Cowrick speed, but unfortunately for my opponent, my Conqueror Lilius is a little bit too fast for that. So I am kind of forced to press my buttons with C Lilius, however, just because this Cowrick does outspeed my Flutica thanks to the Mage Frenzy. But luckily, it does not crown stun us, so like, we're chilling. We're being chilling. You know, I press my Ida buttons, his Cowrick and Politis are about to die. This Bryceria is not, but it's okay because we can just soul burn onto either Bryceria or DJB, and this match is pretty much over. So unlucky for my first opponent, because while they may have been confident in their speed, so was I. So we round out the first match just by cringe cleaving my opponent. I'm not too sure why I S1 into Bryceria. I think I should have just S1 into DJB there, but it wouldn't matter regardless because she was reset by Flitica, and then there is not much my opponent can do about that. So we just go and queue up for the next match, and our next opponent arrives with an AOL display picture, which is kind of gross, but whatever. Can't really complain. That unit's been out for a year? A year and a half maybe? Anyway, I picked Conqueror Lilius because, you know, she's so flexible, like very balanced by the way. She can be used to contest, she can be used to play aggressively, she can be used in standard, like not super well, but like she can. And my opponent actually just goes balls to the walls with speed imprints, so I didn't want to be left out of such a fun and engaging playstyle, so I respond to him by picking my own speed imprints. My opponent then seeing that I am also a man of culture, doubles down and picks more speed imprints. So I pick my second speed contester in Acid, and then I also pick Watcher Shuri as imprint to round my draft out. And then from here, I ban the largest imprint my opponent has, which is either Shuri or T-Surin. Not T-Surin, RGB Surin. But RGB Surin isn't that useful, whereas like RGB Shuri kind of is. And we just kind of have to hope we outspeed. And look at that. With a 22 imprint, we are still able to outspeed because Conqueror Lilius has a base speed advantage on both my opponent's openers here. And my opponent just quits because like it's over. And he knows that it's over and I know that it's over. So yeah, we love to see it. F in the chat to my opponent, but I think I faced them before because I recognize their flan, because their flan is one of those rare flans on Guiding Light instead of Unseen Observer. So that's something you need to watch out for this season, I think. There's a lot of people running a lot of strange decks because the meta currently right now is really aggressive and people really like their RNG units to deal with cleave sometimes, because cleave is always like the playstyle most acceptable to 15% because they rely on like, you know, units hitting, they rely on like critical debuffs landing, so their gameplay actually advances. Anyway, my opponent here bans Conqueror Lilius and Leica, which I thought was like pretty surprising. So I first pick Steny here just in case, you know, like they decide to play more standard, but she's also able to be used into like a more aggressive lineup, like because of souls, whatever, you already know the drill. I pick Steny like almost every game when I'm given the option to. And so in response to my opponent's Adin and Scarawall, I pick Flitica and DJB because, you know, they eat standard teams up for breakfast. And my opponent actually picks Ran and Ning Ning. I'm kind of surprised at the Ning Ning pick, honestly, because my team doesn't really have barriers and Ning Nings usually aren't like super fast. Well, that's not true. Like I know like a few YouTubers that have like really fast Ning Nings. But anyway, I decided to ban Edward here after a long term of contemplation because I just didn't want to risk having to DPS my opponent's team down with the Bryceria if the Edward is up. But my opponent actually bans my Bryceria, so I'm kind of in an awkward situation where I'm praying that my Acid does outspeed, but luckily we do, not by like a super wide margin. And I actually soul burn this S3 just because of the escort, and judging by the damage numbers, I think it was kind of close, but it's fine. Like I'd rather use the souls to ensure a kill instead of just, you know, missing the kill barely and then having my team die to the Ran S3. My opponent understandably pushes up the Adin, but since it was such a fast Adin, it doesn't actually look like it did too much damage to my DJB, and DJB of course does have the proof. I go for the S2 here to do some chip damage onto Adin, but I think this was a mistake. I think I should have waited for SCRWell's S3 to be used for me to actually try and barrier invert, because, you know, Arrow is just going to put that barrier back up. And then my Flitica is able to go again, and I go for the reset onto Ning Ning, and I'm hoping that this might stick, because most Ning Nings are built with effectiveness instead of ER, and luckily we are able to get the increase. And since my Flitica did proc Adin's passive with their S2, which is uncounterable, I'm able to go for the S3 onto Adin. And I'm hoping with pen set and one death on the board, it's able to kill, but this Adin actually survives with a pretty sizable amount of HP. So this is kind of bad. And my Flitica didn't go into Guiding Light, so Flitica is also about to get stunned, which is not great, and that giant shield onto Adin, which I really did not like. And now my Acid is forced out of stealth too because he didn't kill anything with the Wind Rider, so that's kind of awkward. Flitica goes down here, and now I kind of have to wait till Steny comes back up because this Adin, oh, nope, she doesn't have her passive yet up. So I go for another hit, except we miss again, which is kind of getting annoying at this point. We kind of have to hope that this Ning Ning doesn't land any of her stuns onto Acid. And luckily she does not. And I don't know. It's not looking the greatest at the moment. I kind of really have to hope that my Stenny lands a hit or two here. This Savior Adin is about to get a lot of lifesteal from hitting my Acid because Acid is squishy. But here come the Soul Burns. Okay, Soul Burn number 1 missed. Let's go for Soul Burn number 2. We've missed like 6 hits on her so far. But unfortunately, we do not get a miss. And since Adin got CR pushed so much, I'm pretty sure at this point my DJB is going to die, and SC, ROL, and Ning Ning can honestly solo my Stenny just by being faster and CCing her all the time. And to rub salt.
Oh, now we gotta go.
Adin gets that dual attack. And we lose because I couldn't do enough damage to this Adin. Kind of depressing because you already know if that Adin was on my side, she would have gotten hit like 10 turns ago and died. But whatever, it's fine. We can't complain about RNG. I think I should have seen my opponent's Bryceria ban incoming and maybe have banned Adin, or have like got unluckier and just hit her 5 head. Like 2 options were there. I picked neither. Like can't get mad at any of them, you know? Anyway, my next opponent is Fake here, you know, like the off-brand faker. So that's exciting. He hasn't won a Worlds in like however many years, so you gotta make sure that he doesn't win an Epic 7 game either. No shade though. I remember when I used to play League of Legends a lot in like high school, and that was a lot of fun. But then they kept making bruisers and assassins really busted, and it was so annoying. Like I think I quit around the time Samira was released because like I just couldn't handle it anymore. Like I already dealt with Kaisa and then more busted bullshit, so my opponent picks AOL Stenny, which is kind of rude because I want to pick Stenny. So I pick DJB and Sylvan Sage Vivian as my neutral picks, even though Sylvan Sage Vivian isn't the best pick into AOL. I just kind of had to because she's a neutral book holder and she doesn't like. I think the big benefit about like drafts like this is it's very ambiguous. Like sure, Conqueror Lilius and DJB is like kind of aggressive, but Sylvan Sage Vivian, most people don't expect Sylvan Sage Vivians to be that aggressive. You kind of only realize that she's an anchor near the end of the draft, which is the kind of vibe that I'm going for. My opponent picks Rimuru, which makes sense. My team has a lot of buffs, and he is good into Sylvan Sage Vivian, so can't say anything about that. I pick Bryceria because Bryceria is reached for Stenny, and I pick BBK because BBK is also reached for Stenny. And even if they steal the immortality, I can just strip it right off. So I'm hoping my opponent doesn't pick like Edward in the last slot, but it does look like it's going to be a clean BBK solo. If you didn't know, my BBK is speed tuned to be slower than most standard units, so even if they pick units like Degen, Rimuru or whatever, I'm not honestly too bothered. My opponent picks Leica, but like again, I'm confident in my speed and I have DJB on my side, so I'm not bothered in the slightest. So I just ban out AOL because AOL kind of cucks both, well, all 3 of my DPS units. I'm pretty sure my opponent's gonna ban DJB just on the off chance. Not on the off chance, because like they're thinking that maybe if Leica outspeeds, they can sleep my whole team or something. I don't know, they're kind of roping me. Yeah. As I thought, they banned DJB because DJB has a lot of flexible utility, especially with that 30% push-up. But yeah, I'm honestly not too concerned because my Bryceria and BBK are both on immunity, so even if this Leica does outspeed me, it doesn't mean too much. But luckily for me, Conqueror Lilius does outspeed. So I'm able to go for the S3. I'm pretty sure I can't debuff this Amelia. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I have 130 effectiveness, but judging by that Amelia speed, which is at like 240, 250, it might be enough to not... It might be like running enough ER to reliably resist my Conqueror Lilius. So just chill, and we go for the S2 onto Leica just in case they put immunity up. And my opponent pushes up this Rimuru, and I was surprised that this Amelia is running Ning's artifact, the one that removes souls. So it's kind of like, wow, that's an interesting tech. Anyway, they go for the S3 onto Sylvan Sage Vivian, but I guess this Rimuru was a tanky variant because it doesn't do too much damage. So my Sylvan Sage Vivian lives, which is kind of weird. But anyway, we just keep it rolling. We press S3 with Bryceria, do 1 billion damage, and then Stenny is able to go here. And even if the Stenny does kill my Sylvan Sage Vivian, it's kind of like a now what moment, because yeah, Sylvan Sage Vivian as expected dies, but BBK is about to go. And you know, I press Soulburn just for some style points and cleanly wipe his team out. Well, except for Amelia, but she dies here, so pretty clean, right? Oh, cut the cameras. She died, guys, trust. But yeah, we finally make it into the 3,300 range. Anyway, we go into the next match here, into JQ, a bunch of letters I'm not gonna read. And hopefully we can take home another dub. I pre-banned the same units of Zeo Bellion because, yeah, I first pick Conquer Lilius, and I'll explain my pre-bans. I pre-banned Zeo because my opener is C. Lilius, and she is not Zeo proof, so I'm forced to ban Zeo. And I banned Bellion because I'm a bad person that likes to abuse books. If that is not obvious from my Stenny picks. Anyway, my opponent picks Hand Guy, which I'm pretty surprised about, and Destina. So I picked Flitica because Flitica is good into Hand Guy, and Stenny because Stenny is just flexible. I think Hand Guy is making a resurgence in the meta somewhat because he's really good in those like Giga Tankdown comps because it makes it unCCable. So as long as you survive the initial burst, Hand Guy is pretty good because he just provides a lot of value from there because he gives you immunity, he like strips and does all that. So I think I've seen him a lot more. It's just he kind of struggles in the part where it's like he needs to die, and he needs his team not to die in the first turn, which is kind of difficult unless you're playing a very specific draft. Anyway, my opponent picks SSB Senya, so I respond by picking Bryceria and BBK. I'm thinking of banning this Destina and then just going for the reset or Soulburn into, like the Conquer Lilia Soulburn into Hand Guy just to make it up. Or I can actually Soulburn C. Lilius into Hand Guy and then reset this Sylvan Sage Vivian. That's also an option. I'm pretty sure my opponent's banning Bryceria because like his team's so buff reliant, and yeah, that's exactly what happens. But this match should be pretty good because I should be able to do enough damage to kill his team hopefully. And I'm pretty surprised looking at the CR bar. I think that this is a speed Sylvan Sage Vivian, so that's even better for me. Okay, so what I go for is the pushback onto Sylvan Sage Vivian, but it actually gets resisted, or like the redirected provoke. But I'm like, oh, it's fine. Like I guess I can stun it with Stunny. So I go for the S3 reset onto Hand Guy, but he resists any counterattacks, and he's able to actually go and put immunity up, so I can't even stun anything. And at this point, I'm kind of tilted, so you know what it is. Cut the cameras, deadass, and we just leave. And that's what I mean by aggressive or cleave comps getting wrecked by 15%, because like I doubt this Hand Guy is running like 170 ER to resist my Flitica, you know. But whatever, it's fine. I'm not salty, allegedly. So we enter the next match where my opponent bans Lua and Bryceria, which are kind of weird pre-bans to be honest, but you know, understandable. Nobody likes Lua, and Bryceria is pretty good into a lot of these standard comps, so I can understand. My opponent picks SCROL and AOL, which is like a very annoying core, so I pick DJB to counter both of them in one slot, and I pick Stenny because she's up, and like we love Stenny. We kind of have like Zodia of the first 3 picks here, where I think this opener is very flexible and lets you do whatever. Like you can go aggressive, you can honestly tank down, it's really up to you. I pick Adin here because Adin's really good into Lionheart Zermia and Dilibet. And what I mean by that is like she's death penning damage. Like she's like kind of, it's like a mixed matchup into Lionheart, like in my honest opinion. And yeah, but we're looking pretty good right now. Oh, I think I remember this guy. I think this guy's the really tanky Shu, because if I remember correctly, their Shu survived a S10 S3 with a defense break and unbuffable plus a whatchamacallit without escort. So I think that was one of the matches I lost. I actually banned Dilibet here just so I can press my buttons, but my opponent surprisingly bans Roy, which I wasn't expecting. But I'm like, hell yeah, dude. My opponent has no cleanser, so the C. Lilius is about to make this SSB incredibly useless, which we love to see. My opponent actually does resist the escort strip off Arrowell, which is kind of bad, but you know, we're going to try anyway. We go for the barrier inversion, a very balanced mechanic by the way, doing a raw like 6k damage to Arrowell for free, which we love to see. But yeah, we push up. So I think what I'm going for in the early turns is just the kill onto this Lionheart Zermia, just so she can't proc and kill my Steny. And then it should be fine from there because this SSB has attack down and almost no way to cleanse anything off. So I think we're pretty good. We go for the soul burn. I learned my lesson last time with his Shu, so I just wanted to be safe and didn't greed out on souls. I was contemplating whether I want to S3 something else, but I just decided to S3 the Lionheart and hopefully push back this SSB like 90 miles into the CR bar. And look at that, she's at like basically 0%. And since SSBs are on base speed, my whole team is going to lap a billion times. My opponent S1's my Adin here just to get the SSB proc and the AOL proc, but at this point I don't think it matters too much. This SSB isn't able to do anything because it's crippled by the attack down and vigor, and I'm honestly free to just keep wailing into it over and over again. I run my C. Lilius S1 into it, we go for the DJB stun, and we actually get it. And it's kind of oof for my opponent, but you know, it is what it is. My opponent forfeits here because the SSB can't actually cycle out of that stun anytime soon, and he has no cleanses. And we bring justice to another SCROL AOL picker. So we love to see that. But you know, I've been feeling that there have been too many standard players in the last few matches. So I'm kind of anticipating a racer to appear, and it looks like this guy's a racer because anyone who pre-bans Zeo pretty much is telling you like they like having first turn, because I think most standard players aren't really like threatened by Zeo. So that's a pro tip. If you see a Zeo pre-ban, they like taking first turn, and we'll just have to see if their picks back that up. I first picked Conquer Lilius because she's my best built unit, or like in terms of speed anyway. Oh, what the fuck? My opponent first picked Sage Ugly here, which I thought was very interesting because I haven't really committed to any sort of aggressive play in any sense. So this Sage Ball pick is kind of weird. But you know, I have seen I've seen several people with like 300 speed Sage Balls to kind of counteract as like an anti-cleave opener, which is what I guess my opponent's going for, I guess. I pick Steny here because Steny's like always good. I pick my Acid here just to contest the Sahak, which I also thought was a pretty strange pick, unless my opponent has like a 300 speed Sahak, in which case like hats off to him, I guess. It's not that strange because I think Zahak has 119 base speed, which is only one slower than Lua, so it's very doable, especially since he only needs 50% crit. My opponent picks Adin here. I think that was a mistake on my part. I think I should have picked Adin. And my opponent goes for a Lionheart, which I also thought was a pretty strange draft because I was most likely going to go for Celia's buttons no matter what. But I picked Bryce Area because Bryce Area is good into my opponent's team in general, and I also picked BBK because BBK is a neutral pick. Neutral DPS pick, like, and she holds immunity, so that's also good. And she has like that whole like immortality and whatever. And I do notice that my drafts are really Moonlight heavy, but I think that's just a side result of what happened with the RGB proof. My opponent last picked Rimuru. I'm assuming this is some sort of like tanky G-Gen Rimuru, so I don't even want to bother banning it. I actually just go for the Sage Ball ban here. And my opponent actually goes for the Bryce Area ban, which I thought was pretty surprising. But we'll see how this match plays out. My Conqueror Lilius, as expected, is able to go first. And we press all our buttons. I think I had two options. I think I had the option of either redirecting, provoking the Zahawk, so I could S3 in peace, or S3 with Acid, or just choosing to do nothing. But I kind of make a mistake here, and I'm about to give his whole team evasion buff, if I remember correctly from when I proc. Yeah, this Rimuru was actually on, what's that thing called? A Strahd Gauntlet, so it had enough ER to actually be able to resist all of my Celius debuffs, which is kind of an L. They actually go for the S3 onto BBK. They don't steal Immortality because she gained the barrier from Celius, which is kind of a nice tech. And I just kind of go for the damage into Lionheart and pray that I do not miss, and pray that I do not hit a dual attack. We go for the first S1. We don't get the hit, but whatever, as we didn't get a dual attack, so I can't really complain. And the second S3, we actually do get the hit. But unfortunately, it's able to push my opponent up because of the Durandal. And so Adin is able to go, because Adin, of course, also resisted the redirected provoke, unfortunately. So I'm pretty sure that Adin is going to go for the S3 here to provide protection for her team, which I am not loving too much. Celius dies because Rimuru, for whatever reason, defense breaks if he hits a buff target with S3. I mistakenly S3 with Acid here because I thought I couldn't hit the other two units, but they were just invincible. They weren't like unhittable, so that's kind of a choke on my part. The Adin actually goes for the S1 onto, what's that thing called? Acid here, and my opponent S1's my BBK twice, and my BBK dodges the important hit from Lionheart, even though I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have killed because my BBK is like on the bulkier side and she does have vigor. But yeah, we're able to clean up the rest of his team, even though my opponent picked one of my least favorite units of all time in Rimuru. And I'm guessing it does no damage, judging by how it doesn't crit ever, and just gets deleted by S1 from S10. But we defeat the evil, it's fine. Sorry to break it to you, but if you pick Rimuru, ADS, Ran, you're just not a good person, you know? I didn't make the rules. I just enforce them where I give them the L, you know? But yeah, all jokes aside, that was a pretty interesting tech. This is what I mean. This season, since aggressive and cleave play is so favored, there's a lot of like weird and cursed techs you're going to see if you play aggressively. Like I've seen like opener Sage Balls, like 300 speed as Sage Balls. I've seen opener speed Elena's at like 280, 290 for whatever reason, even though we don't have the Soul Weaver buff anymore. So going into the next match, we basically pick Conqueror Lilius, but my opponent bravely picks this Rancy Saria comp, because what if I picked Edward, dude? But I am someone who doesn't really like to build collab units. Just pretend that my Roy doesn't exist, guys. Just shh. But yeah, my opponent sees that I'm racing and picks his own speed imprints. I think he wanted to pick Edward in case I picked more standardish. But that's boring. And I'm not trying to sit here for like 5 years, you know? So I pick my speed imprints. I pick my anti-degen Wanderer Silk. I pick my Midrid because he self-pushes. And I also pick my Sasha's Watcher Shuri. My opponent picks Kayron here. And this is one of my least favorite things that people do. Like, if you're going to pick degen cleave units, you might as well commit, dude. Like, what are you doing trying to back out at last second, especially with units like Kayron? Not that I have PTSD of Kayron soloing me like a 50 billion times. But anyway, since I have like 2 imprints up on my opponent, I obviously outspeed him by a mile. But I actually don't go for the Ran kill here. So I can actually kill Ran and get Sasha's, but then I'm not too sure if I can kill anything with a follow-up S3, especially with the elemental disadvantageous proof. So I actually kill Shuri, and with Sasha's I'm able to push up pretty effectively. So then I'm able to S3 with Widrid and kill Ran and push up again with Sasha's, and we're able to win. See? Decision making went into that. So like, people can't tell me that cleave... Okay, I can't even finish the sentence without laughing, but cleave does have some brain power to it. It's just like, you know, it's more of like you being not stupid than you being like big brain, you know? Anyway, my opponent, Lunar Jui, I guess, is like the way you say it in Korean. Yeah, happy Lunar New Year's, everyone. It was yesterday. Didn't post yesterday though, but like, hope you had like good whatever your culture eats for Lunar New Year's. I had rice cake soup because I'm Korean, and it was really good. But yeah, anyway, my opponent picks 2 of my most commonly picked units in DJB Steny, which is quite rude if I'm being honest. So I pick Flitica because Flitica is good into DJB, and I pick Sylvan Sage Vivian because Sylvan Sage Vivian is good into Steny most of the time. And then my opponent picks Lua here, which is kind of disgusting because nobody likes this unit. Well, that's not true. Only I think Lua hurts your playstyle more the faster you are. Like, I think if you're like a slower tank down player, it doesn't affect you as much, but since I like playing fast, making your team do nothing in the first turn is kind of detrimental. I go for the Acid pick to contest this Ran, and I go for another speed imprint, I'm pretty sure. I was thinking of picking BBK here, and I decide that I actually am going to pick BBK because, yeah, I could have picked a speed imprint, but I was kind of afraid of this degen pick last, so I went for the BBK myself. So I kind of have to hope that my Celius does outspeed, but it's looking kind of doomed, if I'm being pretty honest. So I kind of have to hope that my Celius outspeeds, and it does. But judging by that CR bar, both Ran and Lua outspeed my Flitica, which is not great. It's not great for a variety of reasons. So Lua's not great because she can sleep and provoke my team, but Ran is not great because he puts immunity up and then stigmas me. And that's important because normally Flitica would just be able to strip off the immunity and go from there. But since Ran is like fair and balanced, he also has an ignore soul burn on his S3. So basically my BBK is about to get stripped here, and my Flitica is rendered pretty useless. I decide that I'm just going to skip the S3 because I'm not resetting anything and nothing is getting pushed up a meaningful amount, so I decide to just strip off the immunities and the skill null from Ran. I'm honestly contemplating yielding at this point because it doesn't look like I can actually win anymore. But I don't know. Like, if I'm being honest, I was on a call with some of my friends who I play RTA with. I would highly recommend, by the way, like playing with friends, not being in a call with my friends. But yeah, Lua's able to go because they're cleansed by DJB, and they press all their buttons, and it's looking more and more doomed the more and more I look. But my friend convinced me to play it out because my BBK is on Shepherd, so we have MLDB on our side, but we also aren't right side. But apparently, judging by what just happens in the Steady S3, we do have RNG on our side because my BBK does resist. And thanks to BBK resisting, we're able to go into Ran and one-shot him with the low health damage. We're not able to do anything with any of our other characters because, you know, Lua reset us, fair and balanced, hashtag. And we kind of have a fighting chance at this game. Not a big chance, but a pretty small chance. We luckily resist the S3, not the S3, the S2 with Sage Ball. Not Sage Ball. Sorry, all these ammo units, like, they blend together. But basically, DJB, like, flops his hit chance down on everybody. That matters. So, like, basically BBK. And then BBK dodges another hit with MLTB. And we rob this guy super hard. I'm really sorry, Lunar Chewy, but am I gonna complain about a free win in these hard economic times? Hell nah. So, thank you for the win. And we end off at a nice, cool 3,333 points. And that's all the climbing we're doing in today's video. Just a small segment before I go. My channel recently hit 500 subscribers. I'd like to thank everyone for your support. It's like kind of crazy. I didn't think my channel would ever get to this size, to be honest. But yeah, like, I really appreciate everyone who likes, leave a comments, like especially WDASD, like that guy, like he always leaves like the best, most supportive comments, like thank you. And yeah, I'm going to be opening my Discord server soon whenever YouTube decides to open up my community tab, so that'll be fun, so look forward to that. But as always, I'll catch you next time.